Star Trek Wars. On tonight's podcast, we'll be covering the most recent episode of Strange New Worlds. I'm your co-host, Jordan, and joining me tonight to start a mutiny, it's Joselyn.
That's right.
Joselyn, this is starting to feel just like Alpha Braga 4.
Oh, don't I know it? Works every time.
That's right. Jeremy will not see it coming. We're recording without his knowledge.
That's right.
And we're going to force him to edit it. So Jeremy cannot be here this evening because he's locked in the brig, but we will allow him out next week.
Potentially.
And we will hear from him later on.
Yes.
So tonight, as I mentioned, we'll be reviewing Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 7, entitled The Serene, Squall. It's written by Bo DeMeo and Sarah Tarkoff, directed by Sidney Freeland. While on a dangerous humanitarian mission, the crew of the USS Enterprise stumbles into a harrowing game of leverage with the Quadrant's deadliest space pirates. Joselyn, really? Must be a very small quadrant.
Yes.
It's time to play Hit It or Quit It.
Ooh, I love this game.
What did you think about this week's episode?
Well, unsurprisingly, I'm going to hit it like I'm Nurse Chapel and this show is Spock, and I got to prove to this space pirate captain that we're having a torrid affair in front of T'Pring.
Jeez. Just when I thought I could get any more awkward.
I'm committed to the narrative, Jordan. I'm committed.
So. Sounds like, yeah, I'm going to hit it. It's moments like these where I'm not sure why we play this game, because I think we've hit every episode so far, and that's just a testimony to Strange New Worlds. This is, I think I said last week was my least favorite episode, but I actually did very much like it, and I think this might be my least favorite episode so far, but it's close. I still enjoyed it, but we'll get into it more. I thought it was a solid episode. The pacing is a little hit or miss. I think the B storyline was not fleshed out as much as it could have been, and there's a few little minor things here and there, but overall pretty solid. Some really good moments. Some interesting things happen here. Yeah, big reveal. So without further hesitation, let's get into our pros, Jocelyn, and what you liked about this week's episode.
Let's do it. I'm going to begin my pro section the way I always begin it, and that is with the fashion. Number one in my heart and in my eyeballs is T'Pring. Let me tell you, Jordan, how difficult it is to do a bold eye, a bold lip, bold hair, and a bold brow all in the same
bold
look.
Ears.
And bold ears. I mean, she just does it, and she pulls it off effortlessly. And let me tell you something else. She knows how to wear a revenge dress. At the end, when she comes into Spock's quarters and she's like, "You better have been joking," she knows what to wear. Yeah, it's amazing. And I could go on and on about T'Pring, and I will later. So I'm going to move on to number 2, Dr. Aspen. I have never seen a woman carry off a face tattoo with more elegance and confidence. I love her futuristic jogger set that she's wearing with the cropped jacket and the, that whole thing. I love the workout sports bra with the mesh sweater over it thing. I loved the very aggressively patterned catsuit. Her whole look, basically, mostly the first 2 looks, are giving me very, I'm a former Olympic medal gymnast from some Eastern European country who is now coaching an American team, and we intend to win. The hair was pretty good, too, actually. Number 3, the away mission, battle-ready Kevlar exoskeleton suits. Yeah, like they're black with the matte and the shiny. Like we've seen that before. It's almost very Discovery, but they do that cool thing where they've got like this kind of metal honeycomb-esque like color plate in the front. I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool way of still keeping it like old school style, but being very new school at the same time. It's just cool. It's just very, very cool. I will include the members of the Serene Squall because I feel like the clothing and the style of them was appropriate to their role in this episode. It was kind of like futuristic space Pirates of the Caribbean meets Mad Max meets just a general lack of hygiene, which I buy from this group of people. And it gets the message across. And also the way that Pike's hair gets like all tousled when they're beating him up, and was kind of great. And then he has an apron on and he's cooking. Anyway, very much
his
pro.
hair needed a good tussling.
His hair needs a good tussling. We're going, just as an aside, we're going maybe in the wrong direction with this hair. And that direction is up. We need to bring it down a little bit and forward a little bit. And maybe switch directions halfway through the part a little bit. You know what I mean? We just need a little bit of...
Well, you'll get an entirely new look next week. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, I can't wait. I read the description on IMDb for next week, and I'm pretty excited.
I saw a preview.
So I can never... I'm watching on Paramount Plus. Is there a next time on after
Not that
the credits?
I've seen. It's usually something you have to seek out online or suffer through the Ready Room.
Which I forgot to do this week.
Joselyn.
But I will. I will watch it for a next time on.
So apparently Jesse James takes over on the Ready Room for like 5 minutes and hosts and roasts Will Wheaton. I have not watched it yet, but I need to just for that.
See, I don't know who Jesse James is. Because I came to the Ready Room when Will Wheaton was already hosting.
Oh, they played Dr. Angel this week.
Oh,
the
really?
one that you were just praising for, yes.
Dr. Aspen.
Outfits. Dr. Aspen, yes.
No way.
Yeah, Captain Angel, sorry. Dr. Aspen. One and the same.
One and the same. They're the host? They used to host?
Technically, for 5 minutes.
Ooh,
The
like
best
it.
5 minutes of the Ready Room.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that.
Since
I love them.
Matt Mira was the host.
Also,
Anyways.
don't know who that is. That's who I was thinking you were referencing.
Oh, no.
Okay, my bad. Anyway, all these names, but the name you really need to know is Bernadette Croft. You want to know why?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
She's head of costume design for this show.
Oh, okay.
And she's amazing. And all of these outfits are amazing. And fun fact, she worked in the costume department on a show called Rain, which was on the CW.
Like a Victorian.
Yes, loosely based on the life of Mary Stuart, Mary Queen of Scots.
As most CW shows are.
Yes, very, very loosely based. But this one has no vampires in it.
Much like Clueless was based on Taming of the Shrew.
Exactly. But this one is a period piece, and there's like 78 episodes, and yes, I've seen them all, and she just knows like what she's doing in the context of a show. So these Star Trek outfits are very Star Trek, but they're very like cool and cutting edge. And also in Rain, they were period piece outfits, but they also look like something she bought at the mall and then like adjusted because she knew that the audience for Rain, I mean, it was a show starring people in their late 20s playing characters in their late
Joselyn,
teens, meant for
it's
tweens.
It's the CW. We got that when you said CW. And this is REIGN, correct?
EIGN.
REIGN, correct?
REIGN, yes.
REIGN.
Not like
I said RAIN. There's a show on ABC that was called Rain. That looked awful.
very
I'm pretty
different.
Sure.
Very different.
I just don't want confusion.
Yeah, no. But hey, yeah, check out Rain. Excellent show. Okay. I just need to get this off my chest. And I need to be very clear about this.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's going to be some division in the Strange New Worlds audience moving forward. And I need people to know very clearly that I am team T'Pring. Okay? This woman is basically a futuristic Vulcan social worker who spends her time rehabilitating people in a way that I don't have the empathy for. And also she finds time to read a bunch of books about human sexuality because she feels that the onus is on her to bond with her whatever mate or whatever they're calling it, their life bonded partner. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, she's out here doing the most and looking the most. And I think she's amazing. # team T'Pring, okay?
Okay. I hope you're willing to die on that hill.
I'm going to die on this space hill right here, on this space asteroid that's probably hurling toward an unpopulated planet. But because we all know where this is going, and I just want to think about that right now because I love to pring. This show is so freaking good at dialogue. It's so good at character development. They manage to have these quippy moments between the crew, between, like Pike and everybody else, just in between them. And it's not forced, and it doesn't feel out of place. And everyone, it just makes you feel like they work together, and it's not arbitrary, and everybody gets screen time, and they're doing actual things that contribute to the story. And that is really great. And I enjoy it. And I especially enjoy the relationship between Captain Pike and Number One. It's just really nice. The two of them have a great relationship, and I enjoy it. Two things for Neutral Zone. I just want to point out, for anybody who's listening and still wondering, yes, dreadlocks on white guys are still very much not cool, regardless of what century you are in. That's not okay, and thank you.
Unless you're in Rage Against the Machine, just don't do it.
I mean, even if you are, there's a problem. We have a problem. And although I am fine with this love triangle that we're getting ready to experience between Spock and T'Pring and Nurse Chapel, I'm only fine with it because this show has proven that up to this point they can be trusted with a love triangle. That they can be good stewards of a love triangle, and that they will not draw out the love triangle to the point where we're all super over it. So that's why I'm okay with it. And although I want to be clear that I am Team T'Pring, I do feel bad for Nurse Chapel because she is cool and she deserves someone who is her equal. And also, of all the characters in the show, she's probably the most me. So I am rooting for her in a way, but I don't know. I love T'Pring. If Spock doesn't marry T'Pring, I will. Okay? Just get that message out there. I'm not going to do any better. Just saying. What about you, Jordan? You got any pros?
I do.
Are you as into T'Pring as I am?
Yes and no. I think the actress playing her is doing a very good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually surprised at how much T'Pring that we're getting from this show. But knowing where things go, and one of the reveals of characters we got this week, it would be interesting to see how they progress. I thought it was very cool that she works at a Vulcan rehabilitation center, and that such a thing exists on Vulcan, and that they're taking care of that. And that one of the occupants there is someone that we are familiar with from the past. We'll talk about that later. But yes, the triangle is very difficult. I believe it was one Phil Jackson who perfected the triangle. It's mainly because of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and,
oh my God,
Ron Harper and, many.
Don't
it's a difficult offense to run. That's right. The Jeffries tubes, we get a very classic looking set of Jeffries tubes, one that we would see Scotty in very often, and Uhura, and it had the same colors as the original Jeffries tubes. It looked a little more modern. This show just does such a good job of updating that retro look of the original series and kind of the almost cheap aesthetic of the 1960s show with something a little more streamlined, but still not looking overly, it doesn't try to be too cool like the J.J. Abrams stuff. It's not trying too hard. It's just kind of merging modern stuff to make it just an updated look on what we've seen before.
Is this your version of a fashion corner, Jordan?
I think so, yes. Just more with electronics.
This is great. I love it.
Chapel knocking those two punks out with a hypo spray was pretty awesome. It's not like she runs out there with a phaser rifle and is blasting. She's not Danny DeVito.
Right.
So I started blasting. She does something within her profession that she
Right.
understands, which is stab someone with a hypo spray and knock them the heck out. And it's like
Exactly.
a struggle. And she kind of like accidentally falls into the guy and knocks the phaser rifle out of his hands. Because like, you can't just have a nurse take out 2 pirates with brute strength, typically.
I mean, we are classically trained fighters. Like, that's
Yes.
part of nursing school. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well,
if you
it's
haven't done it in a
first
while, you
rule
can be
of
a little
nursing
rusty.
school.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I think that she's gotten way more to do in this show than I had initially anticipated as well, which has been good. Pike getting captured, and what does he do? He cooks a delicious dinner for his captors. Like, what a Pike thing. Like, when Archer got captured, all he did was complain and, you know, stupidly try to escape and try to talk his way out of it, which almost never worked, and they just had to punch his way out of it. Pike is like, you know what? I'm going to cook such a good meal that this crew is going to realize that their captain, for one, is a crappy cook, but then I'm going to like sow seeds of dissent between the crew and pit them against each other so that I can escape.
Yeah.
And he's done it before. So I just love that so much. And like you mentioned, I wanted to see more of it, but like Pike, and we've seen him cook before, and this fits his character.
Yeah.
He's got the frickin' cooking overalls on.
Got
and
the
he just,
apron on. It's
yes,
crazy.
yeah, cooking overalls, yeah.
Cooking overalls.
Or an apron, as you,
Oh, I'm so
as
sorry.
the peasants call it. But yeah, Pike starting a mutiny was great. The Alpha Braga 4 thing, like, and I think someone brought this up in the fan comments where you and I have been pretty critical in the past of Discovery, saying like, oh, it's like that time on Delta Vega 3. It's
Right.
like, but then they don't tell us what happened or show us what happened on Delta Vega 3. So like the Alpha Braga 4 thing is kind of that, but we understand just through dialogue and what the characters are discussing in the context of it, what happened on Alpha Braga 4 without them holding our hands. And then they also discuss it. And there's also some comedy to it. So I actually didn't mind that. The line, fire gently, because Pike does not want to hurt his baby, the Enterprise.
Right.
And Ortega's like, what does that even
What does
mean?
it
And you could like see
mean?
him wincing when Enterprise gets shot, which is just so good.
The exchanges between Pike and Ortegas are almost the best.
Those are pretty good,
Yeah,
yes.
they're
They've had
really good.
The blind date, third date stuff.
Yeah.
The Chapel Spock moment was a little hit or miss the first time I watched it. I was like, oh
Really?
man. But then it does make sense, and it does add that level of tension later on in the show. It's hard to like reconcile some of the things that are going to happen versus the original series, but I still think this kind of plays within the lines of what the original series outlined for these characters. And you can't really fault the show for doing things that might contradict the original series in some capacity because it was written in the 60s, and you're just going to
I
have,
hope so. Yeah.
like, you can't have Pike be anti-females on the bridge and then give him a bridge full of female officers and, you know, still have him be that way. Like, you have to adapt to the times in which it was written.
Also, we
and
have to
you have
like
to evolve.
Pike. Very important.
Yes, you have
that
to
we
want
like Pike in
to
the
like
series.
Pike and root for Pike, and he's so likable. Like, you can't do that to him.
Right.
So-
we have to care that he gets burnt, you know, like
Yes.
a platter of fajitas at a Mexican restaurant later on. Like, we have to care that that's going
You
to
are
happen.
not going to the right Mexican restaurants if your food comes out looking like that. I ordered fajitas. This is refried beans, and they look like they've been refried more than once. I am Will Wheaton levels excited for next week's episode, and if you like the CW show Rain,
Yeah.
I would recommend watching the preview for next week's episode.
Okay,
'Cause I think
Are we getting a period piece?
a Jocelyn's fashion corner will definitely be
Oh my god.
the talk of the town next week.
Okay, I'm so excited.
It'll be in high demand.
Okay. Oh my god.
So neutral zone wise,
Mm.
I do feel that this episode, and I give it some leniency because I think all Star Trek does this to an extent, but not as much as modern Trek. There's just the reason Star Trek shows overuse present day vernacular, like Nurse Chapel saying things like pro tip. or T'Pring saying spice things up.
Yeah.
That just seems like very modern day stuff or stuff I would see scrolling through my Facebook feed. Like, pro tip, use Q-tips to,
You
do
don't
this.
think pro tip is going to survive
Transcend
the
the next few
centuries?
It could. I liked Captain Angel until the obvious twist.
Yeah.
So, like, the first half of this episode where they're analyzing Spock and kind of talking about how he's torn between two worlds, I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And being like this counselor, therapist was interesting. And then the character turned into this mustache twirling villain, right down to like the evil laugh, multiple times laugh, and like baby talk. And I don't know. I just couldn't get behind that as much. I was like, oh, this is an interesting character. And they're like, nope, it's just a regular old bad person. It's like, oh. So maybe they'll do more on a return episode because I don't think this character is going away. I think this will be like seems like a very Harry Mudd type character.
I was just going to say, she went full Harry Mudd.
Pretty much. But like, I don't know. Harry Mudd is like kind of just a goofy character.
Yeah.
Captain Angel seemed like more of a diabolical character.
Yeah.
And much more, playing against Spock's emotions. One of the lines was, I've been playing your emotions all day. I thought that was good because Spock's like, Vulcans don't act on emotion. And she's like, oh, honey. Like, so I thought that was good. So there was some good there, but just towards the end, it just devolved into like they fire the weapons and she's just giggling like, oh, this is fun. It's like, okay, I guess. Like they didn't really do anything cool. And then there are other reasons I get into my cons, but I did not like the turn as much. Number one, like I don't see that there's a spot for number one on the bridge. I guess she sits at the con sometimes, but like there's no
struck me
first.
As strange too.
Yeah, she's always in like a different spot or not on the bridge, and we haven't got as much number one as I thought we were going to get.
Well, we had that one episode where we
we had like the one big Ghost of Illyria.
She had her big episode, but it's been very honestly Spock focused for the most part. Pike too, he had his big
definitely Pike and Spock.
Yeah, it's the Pike and Spock show.
Third place as far as screen time wise might be Nurse Chapel almost at this point. I feel like she's gotten
what's the security chief's name? Why can't I think of it?
Oh, definitely Lon. Yeah, I would say Lon third for sure. And then probably Chapel.
Love her too.
And I don't know, this might be my cons, but Hemmer having almost no screen time to this point. Just like
where was he this episode? He and Uhura, did they like go on vacation?
And Uhura's had a decent amount of screen time too, and you can't fit them all in every episode, but I just thought number one would have more to do to date. But we still have 3 episodes left. So
yeah.
The crew is captured pretty easily, and that becomes a neutral zone thing because we've seen it before in Star Trek. And, I thought they could have done a little better job, but we see the initial away team get captured, and then number one and a bunch of them are just down there captured, and you don't even really see how.
Yeah.
Other than, I guess, the pirates took over the bridge and just beamed them down into the brig. But a little more there would have been nice. A huge legacy character reveal.
Yeah.
Stan is shown, which you remember from a mock time, obviously. So let's see where this goes. But also Cybok, a.k.a. Severius. Did not see that one coming, I will say.
So I guess my question is Cybok just going to be Spock with a grizzly beard and
that is exactly hair? I'm almost positive.
Because and they wouldn't show his face, and why wouldn't you?
I would think it's because Cybok will probably not appear until the second season. They're just kind of sowing the seeds.
Oh, really? Because I looked.
Well, there's only 3 episodes left, and I don't think he shows up in the next one.
Okay.
So unless they're saving it for like the finale, or
I did look at the IMDb page for the next one to try and figure out like if Cybok was going to be played.
I'm assuming just what came to my head was that Ethan Peck just had a wig on and they shot him from the back because he probably already has the ears on.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to be roughly the same, height and hair color as Cybok. When you're wearing a wig, I guess it doesn't matter what your hair color is.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming they just shot him from the back and that was the fill-in for Cybok until they cast somebody.
Cybok is the Star Trek 5 guy.
Correct.
So...
Speaking of Star Trek 5, would you like to share your pain? I think as I will quote myself from the Star Trek 5 podcast, my pain was watching Star Trek 5.
Yes. That's kind of my concern. Yeah.
And I think Jeremy has something to say about this, but
okay.
I think his point is kind of where I come from too, is if you're going to redo a character, maybe redo the ones that were not so well received initially versus fleshing out characters that we already know that don't need it as much. Like we probably don't need to see much of Captain Kirk because he's a pretty strong character.
Right.
And I don't think he needs to be fleshed out as much. So I'd much rather see a side character that maybe didn't play so well the first time and give us something that's going to enhance, if possible, Star Trek 5. I doubt Cybok's performance is going to have me rushing to watch Star Trek 5 again, but more power to him if they can make that happen.
No joke.
The B storyline was a little underserved, as I mentioned before, but aside from that, that's all the neutral zones I have, Joselyn. Mm-hmm. So I think, did you have any neutral zones, or did you already share everything?
That's it. I think I got through my neutral zones.
No, okay. Well, speaking of neutral zones, Joselyn, Star Trek Wars is a podcast.
It is.
I'm sorry, this should go in the pro section.
It should.
You know what? This week's episode, I believe, if it was either this week or last week's, was I think this week's the 850th episode of Star Trek, which means that on the Star Trek Wars podcast, we have reviewed 850 episodes that may include the movies as well.
That's wild.
And Jeremy did something very cool and probably took him a long time, and he broke up on the podcast feed all of the seasons of Star Trek Wars. So there's a season 1 through 9 tab. If you go to season 1, that's all reviews for all the first season episodes that we watched on our initial Star Trek Wars review. So that would feature Connor and Jeremy reviewing the original series, Enterprise, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and then all the way through season 7 where we completed those shows. Season 8 will be the movies, and then season 9 is kind of the modern Trek or new Trek or Kurtzman Trek era of Star Trek, covering Discovery and Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Prodigy, and anything else that might come at us.
So much Trek.
Check out Star Trek Wars, over 300 and something episodes. We have a Patreon page if you want to support us at patreon.com/Star Trek Wars.
You do.
And if you don't have the money to support us, you can go over to facebook.com/groups/Star Trek Wars, vote on episodes, leave comments. You can also support us free by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes.
Wow.
So, Jocelyn, back to you in the studio. What are your cons for this week's episode?
Jordan, Star Trek Wars. Hit it or quit it?
I definitely hit it.
I'm going to say hit it.
I've hit it so many times.
Yeah. Love it.
Even before I was on the show, I was hitting it.
Yeah. Okay, cons. In and about face. You slap a face tattoo on someone, I know they're the bad guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just
It looked like henna, too. Like, it didn't look like a real it's like she went to a festival and was like, I think I should have that on my face for a week. I'm not going to commit to a lifetime. Like, this is not Mike Tyson level tattoo.
Right, just like a semi-permanent
I'll do it for a weekend.
Tattoo. It's a little microblading. Yeah, I knew she was the bad guy. I wrote the note like, okay, this person's the bad guy at like minute marker 15. So that was well before the big reveal. And maybe, the point is not to be completely hoodwinked and bamboozled by that premise. That's not necessary, but
sure.
Yeah. And then any question in my mind when she shows up in the black cat suit, I'm like, oh, bad guy. That's classic bad guy.
I thought Augment bad guy originally.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah. So that was a con for me. Why is it that all hardened criminals across any genre refuse to brush their teeth? Like, what is this?
I think
Like, is oral hygiene just not part of a criminal space pirate code of ethics? Or is it just like you can't fit it in the to-go bag when you're packing for the raid, or what? Because are they just really invested in the idea of dentures, or can you just grow new teeth in space? I don't know. But it's just such a look, you know? The tooth decay is very strong look. Yeah. Pike was getting a little punchy this episode. He was trying some new characters out, doing some impressions.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of smirking, and I just got to say, I cannot support this. I don't support it. You cannot be hot and good at your job and funny. Okay? It's not fair to the rest of us. It's not
Jocelyn, I'm taking this a little personally,
it's
okay?
Okay.
Feeling a little... Is this an intervention?
It is not a reasonable standard to set, okay? You have to have deficits or you're just not relatable. And his only deficit is his fear of being, crisped in future. That's
Crisp
it.
Pike.
Yeah,
Crisp his name.
Pike.
Crispifer.
Crisp
Pike. Oh, God.
That's his only flaw. And then Uhura had a week off, and though I am delighted to see that Starfleet has finally incorporated the concept of vacation time into their worker benefits, maybe they unionized, I don't know, but I'm really sad to not have her in this episode. I feel like she was missing for me. I felt the deficit. Now, Hemmer, I guess I didn't really realize he wasn't in this episode till you mentioned it, to be honest. But that's probably just because we haven't gotten a whole lot of him outside of that like highlight that he had where we learned a little bit more about him. He and Uhura were in engineering together trying to, and she was his hands and he was kind of instructing her, which was very cool. And I liked that. And then suddenly they're not here and I miss them. So mostly Uhura though. But those are really my only cons. I think everything else was pretty good. I mean, the Orion, who was clearly like Irish or Scottish Orion, he was a little bit of a caricature that wasn't quite all the way fleshed out, I feel like. Not a lot of effort potentially put in to his character there. But
no, just generic green pirate.
Real generic green pirate with poor oral hygiene. Again, it's disturbing.
I would assume
I
it
floss
goes
every
beyond
day. Okay.
Oral hygiene and just extends to hygiene in general.
It was hygiene in general. Yeah. I know it's a look, but I don't find body odor and halitosis to be necessarily intimidating. Yeah. Gingivitis is not if you like sneer at me and like half your teeth are missing, 5. I'm not thinking, wow, I'm scared of this person. I'm thinking, okay, this person doesn't have a lot of value for themselves. And that's quite sad. So yeah.
If you're missing half your teeth, I can do the math. The math. All right. The Serene Squall, I thought, was a pretty dumb name for a ship. I don't know what pirates would be like. We're going to name our ship the Serene Squall. Maybe I just don't know what that means, but it just doesn't say.
The Tacit Storm.
Yes.
The Very Calm Wave. Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
The Melancholy.
The Melancholy Hurricane.
I mentioned no Hemmer again. Why this kind of goes to the Captain Angel situation. Why wouldn't they just take Spock and Chapel hostage? They have possession of the Enterprise. Instead of giving up the Enterprise super easily and leaving their crew that they clearly don't care about to be taken over. There's just the two of them on the ship at this point, I believe. Most everyone's in the brig or subdued. I'd imagine Sam Kirk, he should have been in that brig too, because there's no way he's being useful.
No.
But it just seems very out of left field that they take over the other ship and in the middle of a mutiny and then just like, aha, give us the Enterprise back. And they're like, sure, here you go. I'm out. See you next time. So that was kind of weird.
It's even simpler than that. They only needed Spock.
Yeah.
They only need, but I guess they also probably didn't want Enterprise on their tail. But what would it have mattered, I guess? They have the hostage.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's
because I mean they subdued the Enterprise with the backdoor codes. We saw that.
Yeah.
But you say, hey, undo it or I'm going to shoot Mr. Spock, and
right.
Maybe they cave. I don't know. That just kind of undermined the villainy of this week's villain. Pike's pirate impersonation, I would say, was on par with Picard's French accent. Equally bad, but it made for like a funny moment because number one was like, no, just no. It was funny, but it was bad.
It was a great moment for number one.
Yes.
Who is, in that comedy duo, she's like the straight-faced one. Mm-hmm. She's like the no-nonsense, which is her character. Where fun goes to die. Yes, where fun goes to die. Sometimes fun needs to die.
I will say my last con, you already hit on, Dreadhead guy.
Oh, my God.
Mainly because he reminded me of a character from Battlefield Earth.
Yes.
And I don't ever want to be reminded of Battlefield Earth. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. This guy needs to go to like some cultural sensitivity training. He's got a lot of issues, I think.
Of the 4 worst movies I've ever seen in the theater, it's the only one that does not have Nicolas Cage in it. So that's saying something for Battlefield Earth.
The only thing it's missing.
Yes. No.
Yeah, that one was really bad.
So I think that is kind of wraps things up as far as the pros, cons. Jocelyn, anything you want to mention? Any questions or concerns you have going into next week's episode?
Well, I mean, Cybok is a concern for me, just based on historical Cybokiness.
Yeah.
But Star Trek, especially the new Trek, seems to be super obsessed with surprise siblings of this family. Tell you what, what's Spock's father's name again? Sarek?
Horndog?
I mean, I know! He is such a whore.
No kidding. He went to Pon farr this time.
He sure did. I just don't understand. Like, yeah. For someone who's like completely committed to logic, I don't see the logic. I don't.
There's no logic in love, Jocelyn.
That's true.
Or lust, I guess, in this. I don't know. Maybe they'll explain that someday. Maybe he was going through the Pon farr and that was the only way he could get out of it without dying.
He's just a hoe.
Is that a justification for being a man whore? I don't know, but I had to. I was going to die if I didn't, sweetie.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But he wouldn't be wrong. Biologically, he would die given what we know about the Pon farr.
Well, what a better way to go, Jordan? To die for love.
It's awful. Pon farr is very. Anyways,
it looks uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it just looks slightly uncomfortable.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the big caveat to Pon farr. If you don't mate, you die. So that's the only justification, which isn't even a justification if that's what happened.
Yeah.
From a logic standpoint, that's the only way. Like, that would be something as a Vulcan. You'd be like, it was logical. It's either I die or I mate with someone who's not you. Like, you know
what? That's that toxic Vulcanism talking.
It is that toxic Vulcanism.
Yeah, I'm not about it.
Nope. Not about it. At least it only comes around once every 7 years. Well, Jocelyn, speaking of toxicity, let's read our fan comments.
Let's do
My segues are a little off.
A little bit. No offense to Chris Rowell, whose review I'm going to read first. Chris says, well, dang. So much to unpack here. Great story with movie quality visuals and soundtrack as per usual. They really have set a very high bar. The Orion pirate was a little disappointing. Given previous exposure to the race, he didn't seem to fit the mold of an Orion pirate very well. Other than that, spectacular. Brilliant cast. Captain Angel was fantastic, as was the regular cast. The relationship between Chapel and Spock is actually quite intriguing, in my opinion. Recently, a lot of... Oops, I lost my place. Where am I? Recently, a lot of Trek romance stories have been either over the top or unconvincing, whereas the tension between Ethan and Jess is believable and wrought with tension. I agree with that. I liked that they didn't focus too much on the mutiny because it likely wouldn't have been so predictable it would have disappointed, but they covered the basics and moved right along to the main theme of the storyline. Very well done, in my opinion. I think the fact that the very logical Vulcan system has Spock's psycho half-brother under the care of his fiancée is a very illogical conflict of interest plot hole. But that is really clutching at straws for some constructive criticism. The fact that Sybok is referenced, I look forward to seeing where it goes. Another thoroughly enjoyable entry into Strange New Worlds. 9 piss-poor Pike pirate impersonations out of 10.
I agree.
That's pretty good.
Wayne Fraser says, what an absolute mess. Wildly swinging, changes in tone, and discordant storylines ranging from TNG super serious to TOS ultra campy, but it just worked brilliantly. Aspen/Angel was a great villain. I hope they become a reoccurring character, and given the revelation at the end of this episode, there is every chance. Then have amazing range and abundance of charisma. I'm sure Jordan and Jeremy love Pike and Una referring to some never-before-seen past mission a la Burnham and Book, but it led to a super silly mutiny that saw Pike at the literal wheel of a pirate ship and talking in a pirate voice. It was all worth it. However, there's a major con. Just what is this Kurtzman thinking? First, Spock has a previously unknown sister, and now he has a brother out of nowhere? Come on, who's going to believe this nonsense? I love this episode, and I love this show.
That's good. Okay. I remember Kevin telling us how to pronounce his last name. Leung.
Leung.
Kevin Leung. It's not hard, Kevin. It's me. It's not you, it's me. Kevin Leung says, my favorite lines were from Spock and Angel. It's just genetics. Then it's just geography. Another great episode filled with so many different dynamics and great guest stars. One question I have is, Captain Angel, is she an Orion in disguise? I'm also glad they decided to go back to face paint for the Orions over that plastic mask they had in Discovery. Sure makes better for emoting. That's true.
Agreed. Will Flores says, this is my least favorite episode of the season so far, but mainly for 2 reasons. Number 1, the pacing seemed a little quick. I feel like we didn't get a lot of time on the Serene Squall, and seeing some more of the actual mutiny and possibly Pike cooking would have filled in some of the story a tad bit more. And second, nobody saw the person with the face tattoo was going to be a pirate. I mean, I think we all saw it coming, but Spock was for sure fooled.
Yeah.
Laugh out loud. All that being said, it wasn't a bad episode by any means, and the show keeps delivering. Give it a 7. Share your pains.
And Barbara Whipple says, hey, Barbara, Connor asked for Preachy Camp, and it looks like he got it. The first part was really good, but then it trailed off. I am enjoying all the little stories picked up from tidbits in TOS, T'Pring, Stan, the Chapel, Unrequited Love. Surprised about Sybok, but we'll see what they do with it. I would like to see more about number 1 because they talked her up at first, but she never gets much screen time. My favorite line, I've been manipulating you through your emotions all day. That was a good line.
It was. William Jenks says, it's interesting seeing all the mixed opinions here. I think I'm on the positive side. The running time of this episode was 49 minutes. As I watched, I kept thinking, it would make a great 75 to 90-minute mini-movie. I enjoyed the plot, the twist, and the relationship plays, but a few things could have been aired out a bit more. With more time, for example, the too quick and transparent scene where they capture the Enterprise crew baited the bad guys' crew into mutiny could have been aired out more. There were a few of those too quick, too easy spots, but the only one that really took me out of it was a scene where Pike talks the Orion pirate into letting him cook. 2 big Pike plus moments for me. First, when they all started teasing him about being a Boy Scout. I didn't care that Boy Scout might be a reference a couple 100 years out of date. Great way to break the fourth wall. Second, the hair. Toned down. And after he got captured and beat up, even a little more toned down. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. 8 new boyfriends or girlfriends for Nurse Chapel.
Nice. And then finally, Jeremy Reed, our fearless leader, who is still in the brig, and we don't know if we'll let him out. But let's see what he says about the episode.
He was our leader.
But his
cooking is crap.
Jeremy says, sorry I couldn't make it tonight. Thank you, Jordan and Joselyn, for steering the vessel. He's trying to get out of the brig. It's so clear. Yeah. Pros. Colin R. from The Motion Picture and Cybok from Final Frontier. SNW is not afraid to make itself dinner by pulling trash from a couple toasters. Oh my God. Cybok is way more fly than I gave him credit for. His main honey is a non-binary pirate captain? Hell yeah, man. Respect. The Cybok twist is exactly what I want from a prequel. Take a previously established one-off character that was poorly received, flesh them out, and potentially make their first bad appearance better now through context. Neutral Zone. Jesse James Keitel. Loved her portrayal of Dr. Aspen, but Captain Angel was a bit rockier for me. Overall, I still enjoyed her performance far more than I didn't, which is why this is Neutral Zone. I love about 70% of what she did. I also love the idea of having a recurring antagonist on the series, someone we can visit again once or twice a season. Also, if you've seen this week's Ready Room, her 5 minutes of hosting is the greatest the Ready Room has ever been. Where do I sign a petition to make that permanent? The jokes. Like Jesse James Keitel, the humor also works about 70% of the episode for me. I love Ortegas and Spock's spit take and deadpan what? As he learns of T'Pring reading Dr. Ruth's sex books was great. That was great. But those are also paired with Pike putting on an apron and cooking for the pirates, then giving his pirate impression at the end. I didn't hate those things. I just didn't love them either. Cons. You guessed it. Another flare-up of hemorrhoids. It's been burning for 3 straight episodes now. Another week and I will probably have to consult a physician. I give this episode a 7. 7, pirates are not new to Strange New Worlds. Half of Star Trek's international fans have been pirating for 2 months.
If I know anything about hemorrhoids, I believe that would be a proctologist.
Oh, good one. Well, I don't know.
Speaking of proctologists, Jocelyn, it's time to rate this episode.
Is it?
What do you give the Serene Squall? Last time I saw my proctologist, I let out a Serene Squall.
Did you? Just turn your head and cough, Jordan.
I've actually never seen a proctologist, but I mean, maybe I've actually seen one, but not professionally.
I mean, maybe it's time.
I mean, I probably saw someone on the street that I didn't know they were a proctologist. I didn't ask,
it
so
could
that's
be.
on me.
They don't put it on a shirt. Like, trust me, I'm
They
a
put it on their license
proctologist.
plate sometimes, though.
Oh my God.
Ass man. I bet he's a proctologist.
Wow. Okay. Scoring. What were we doing? Scoring? Yes.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this episode, and I give it a 9. 9 face tattoos, which I think is the exact number for me. So really contemplating the face tattoos for sure.
Okay.
Could be a look.
Jeremy also scored this episode a 7. I will give it a 7 as well. 7 Boy Scouts.
Oh.
The council gives this an average score of a 7.92, which brings our overall to a 7.75. So another solid outing for Strange New Worlds. Jocelyn, speaking of Strange New Worlds, it's time to go over what happens next time on Strange New Worlds.
Yes. Okay. I didn't completely finish this idea, but I'll just go into it. So, according to IMDb, and apparently there's a preview on the Ready Room, which I'm going to have to see, but next week's episode features an alien consciousness within a nebula that traps the crew in a fairy tale. There's only one thing I like better than a Star Trek period piece, and it would be a Star Trek period piece musical.
Mm-hmm.
So if they start singing next week, I'll lose my mind. But in honor of that, I am going to cast some of the crew into what fairy tale characters I think they are most likely to be, potentially.
Okay.
And by fairy tale, I guess I just mean Disney movies. Anyway, Pike. Pike is obviously Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, no.
He's got the hair. He's got the body, yaddy, yaddy. He's Gaston.
No, he's Flynn Rider from Tangled.
Stop. He is not.
Yeah, he is.
Not a chance. Hemmer is Flynn Rider. Number one is Meg from Hercules. She's savvy, she's independent, and she's got the hair. She just is. Nurse Chapel is obviously Elsa from Frozen. Obviously.
Who is Nurse Chapel?
Nurse Chapel.
Okay.
Yeah. She's got a great heart, but she can be a little cold. Spock is Eric from The Little Mermaid. Because he's kind of wooden, and he has like absolutely no idea
Well,
when
if you want
girls are
wooden,
into him.
I think he's probably Pinocchio.
Well, that one
I
gets
guess Data's more
a little
Pinocchio,
confusing.
Sorry.
Ahura is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She's optimistic. She takes care of people. She's very well read, and she sings. Very important. And then T'Pring is obviously Jasmine from Aladdin because she has the best fashion and she doesn't need a man. She'll just take one if she wants one. And that's about as far as I got.
No, La'an.
No La'an. Who's La'an? What character? What fairy tale Disney character would La'an be?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I would have to probably one of the Griselda, maybe. Like, that's one of Cinderella's evil stepsisters.
Oh my God.
At this point, she's kind of mean.
She's stern.
She's stern.
She's guarded.
She is guarded.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to have more time for that one. I'm sure on the Facebook page, the fans could they could do their own Disney casting.
Please do. I'm very interested.
I didn't give it much thought, so I would have to do some thinking before I would give up my characters.
Okay. Well, then what do you have for next time on?
Well, Jocelyn, this isn't so much a next time on as a new business plan.
Oh.
I'm starting a new torrent site called the Serene Squall,
You are?
where you can only download Star Trek episodes that have yet to be released to the international audiences. So, check it out.
Wow, it sounds illegal.
Yes.
Oh.
In this country, which is why I would VPN to multiple countries and bounce my IP address where it would be untraceable.
Right. Okay. You're going to need to go into space.
I will also say I know what happened to Hemmer.
Oh.
Hemmer goes on a blind date, and that's as far as I got on that next time on.
Wow.
Pike, very intelligently, as we know him to be, starts carrying a fire extinguisher with him everywhere he goes. Because wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you?
And I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but I was speaking with a client today whose outdoor kitchen, that one of their propane tanks exploded in the night and almost lit their house on fire.
Really?
Yes, which gave me a flashback, PTSD, to when the grease tray on my grill had not been emptied because someone in the home didn't know it existed. I won't say who. And it was like up against the house almost. So the house,
right?
I look out my kitchen window and just fire. I'm like, wait, that shouldn't be there. I don't have any fire outside my kitchen window. My wife comes in like, and my wife was extremely calm. She's like, honey, I was like, is the house on fire? She's like, almost. So I like run out there. I don't know why she was so calm.
Oh my God.
Anyways, so I grabbed my handy dandy fire extinguisher, which I had bought 6 months prior.
Nice.
Like, yes, this is going to come in handy. I go over to the grill, pull the pin and it goes psst, and nothing.
What?
I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my
so I had to go grab the hose, which is connected to a small purple kid sprinkler. So I had to like just quickly unscrew
You can't put water on a grease fire?
It worked.
It worked?
Yeah. And I didn't have a fire extinguisher. So
Wow.
I basically just took the hose and sprayed it down before the propane tank exploded at me. So yeah, that was my story of not getting piked. And then lastly, the chief engineer discovers a previously uncharted asteroid belt. He decides to name it after himself and dubs it the hemorrhoid belt.
Yeah, there it is.
Which also sounds like a product I could sell next week. Ask your proctologist about the hemorrhoid belt.
Oh my God.
They'll never even know you're wearing it.
Maybe just try eating more fruits and veggies, though.
But I digress.
Okay.
Jocelyn, what are you looking forward to in the upcoming episodes of Strange New Worlds as we close out this season? We have 3 episodes left.
I can't believe there's only 3 left.
I know. I miss the days of at least 15 episode seasons. I feel like every show, the stock standard length is 10 episodes now. Unless you're Stranger Things, then you just get like 8 or 9 episodes that are 2 hours long, which I'm okay with. But only 10 episodes just kind of stinks. It removes some of the filler episodes for sure.
For sure.
But I still think they could tell a solid 12 to 15 stories in Strange New Worlds. And if one of them stunk, that'd be okay with me if I got 3 or 4 more episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I'm looking forward to more of what I've been getting, which is like solid characters and nice ethical dilemmas to solve and interpersonal relationships. I don't know. I like it. It's simpler. It's a simpler Star Trek than we get with Discovery for sure. But that's nice. It's nice to have it in the mix. And it's still updated and current and accessible to everyone. So that's nice.
I think it's simpler in some ways, but it also brings up more moral issues that they just focus on and then they move on to the next one as opposed to drawing things out for an extended period of time. The dialogue, like you mentioned, is far superior in almost every way. The character development is also worlds above what Discovery's done with 80% of their characters to this point in just 7 weeks. Or 7 episodes. It's kind of crazy how much they fleshed out even secondary characters like T'Pring, and now bringing in Sybok. It appears we get a guest star this week. We got one last week. So there's just a lot going on with the show. And there's characters like we're missing characters. Like we missed number 1 this week. We missed Hammer this week. We missed like, I can't tell you like, oh, I really missed Reese on this week's episode of Discovery. He wasn't there to give me a weird look and say his one line that anyone on the bridge could have said. So
we always miss the potential of Reese.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Never the character itself. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting pieces of Reese's.
Reese's Pieces.
That's right. Well, Jocelyn, that about wraps up our coverage of Strange New Worlds. We thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week to review the 8th episode entitled The Elysian Kingdom.
So excited.
And if I know anything about Hercules and Xena lore, or just Greek lore, I guess, the Elysian Fields are where soldiers go when they die. It's like their version of heaven, and that's where you go be with your families, and it's a happy place. It's like the opposite of Hades. So,
well, we shall see.
I'm not going to spoil anything for you anymore, Jocelyn. You may want to watch the trailer. I think you're going to be super excited, and I am really excited for next week's episode. It looks more of a lighthearted episode, which I was a little surprised that we're going to get, looks like 2 funny-ish episodes out of 10. But I do like funny Star Trek, and I think if the last 2 episodes are a little more serious tone and keep up the quality that we've gotten so far, I think it's going to be a really nice, well-rounded season that had a lot to offer. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to next week. I know Jeremy may be released from the brig for next week's episode.
We'll see.
So we'll send him to cooking classes and see. He'll have to earn his way out. But I can promise you this one thing. Jeremy will give us a pirate impersonation next week.
Oh, he better.
And it will be bad.
It will be so bad.
Until then, Jocelyn, computer, End program.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.